Welcome to A Lunch with Biggie, a podcast about small business and creatives sharing their stories and inspiring you. My guest today is part of a husband and wife company where they're combining old school graphic designs with elements of heritage, creating artwork inspired by the days of illustration, forward commercial art, creating stickers, prints, stationaries, everything that specializes in putting a smile on your face. Please welcome the creator, owner, and illustrator of Nava and Snow Paper Studios, Stephanie Nieves and Johnny Nieves. What's going on, guys?
Hey,
Hey,
how's it going?
hello.
Thanks
I'm
for having
so
us.
Oh, you're very welcome. I'm thanks for having a lunch break with me. Obviously I always like to ask, what is your go-to lunch or sandwich?
So I've been thinking about this. I've listened to a few episodes and I've been really like, I think if your go to sandwich says a lot about you and I want to nail this. So after too much time thinking about it, I think it's got to be a bagel egg sandwich. And
Okay.
there's got to be like two types of cheeses in there. There's got to be mushrooms and tomato, maybe meat, preferably sausage. But
And before you answer, I got a few follow-ups on this. What when you say cheeses, does cream cheese count as one of the cheeses?
Oh,
Ooh,
yeah.
good
You
question.
know, it's a scallion cream cheese.
Okay. Oh, I
Yeah.
see. I like I know you have some thought into this. And then the other part is, what kind of bagel is it?
Oh, everything. It's gotta be
Okay.
everything.
I love it. No, that's a good one. And then my last question, egg choice. Do you want it as like an omelet scrambled or like a fried egg? How do you usually like all that?
So, I typically would go for scrambled because the melted cheese would get into the crevices, so it's extra indulgent.
Yes. No, no, I love that. Johnny, what about you? What's your go-to lunch or sandwich?
So I also knew this was coming, and it didn't make it any easier. Um, but I think I'm kind of locked in on like a really good chicken salad sandwich
Okay.
because
What
I feel when it hits, it hits.
so tell me what makes it hit, because obviously, you know, it's all the different things that come with it. So my
Yeah.
obviously you have the chicken, you have mayo, but then what are the other things? Like, are you adding celery? What are you kind of adding to all this?
For me, it's like the more the better. So I love it when there's celery. There's got to be some sort of dried fruit in there. If
Okay, I
there's
like that.
the little like sliced almonds for the crunch, and then
Yeah.
like a just like a nice soft bread, and that's perfect for me.
I'm glad you kind of told me that, because that was my next question, was going to be what kind of bread was it going to be?
Yeah,
No,
I could taste it right now.
I like that, man. I love that. That's awesome. Okay, so tell people a little bit about Nava and Snow Paper Studio. How did you guys come up with it? Why did you guys decide to start it?
So we started back in 2017, and honestly, it didn't start as Nava and Snow. I think it was just me. I was invited to the first Bazaar Botanica in Thornton Park, in the little cute. I guess now it's like a wedding venue, but it was so cute. There's a patio, and I think after that, I was just. I think we just started talking. We're like, this is totally viable. We could totally do this. Like at the time, I was in product development, and so like I had this background of like, oh, I could make my own products if I really, really wanted to. And so we started like bouncing off ideas for the name, like what are we going to be? And Johnny had the great idea of like doing my maiden name and then doing his name like translated. So it's like a tag team kind of.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I love that. And then Johnny, your background's in marketing, right?
Yeah, so it kind of turned into an outlet for both of what we do
Yeah.
for our full-time jobs, and we're just like,
Yeah.
well, I think we were always trying to find creative outlets, all throughout college, trying to find different ways to do what we like to do, but in a more fun environment. So,
No.
doing something like this where she can flex her creative skills and I can try to practice some stuff on the marketing side, it kind of worked really well together.
Yeah, no, hey, I totally get it, because that's the reason how I did it. And like, I have my corporate job and I do this, and this has allowed me to kind of have that creative outlet. Because when I find it funny, and Stephanie, you can tell me what your thoughts are on this. When you're, because I talked to some folks, when like you're when you're doing art and doing stuff like that in like the corporate world or for like your day job, sometimes it's not really fun. So you know what I mean? It's kind of very like in a box type stuff. So it's kind of nice to be able to like actually like, spread your wings and be able to do stuff like that, right?
Yeah. So when I was like doing product development, I was like doing like projects for craft stores like Michael's and Joann's, Walmart and Target. And so you have to kind of cater to those trends. Like the amount of unicorns I've drawn in my entire life. Like, I it was, like, minuscule up until I started working at that job, and, like, it was just unicorns and mermaids, and, like, it was very much, like, hopping on trends, and so, um, there's, like, less flexibility on the way you can draw, and the type of content you can draw because you have to have, like, general, broad, honestly generic appeal,
Yeah.
um, for the impulse buyers on the market. And so like it was a very interesting aspect that I never like when you're in art school, you're never told like, hey, if you do art full time, you may not have a much space for your own art after the end of the workday. And so Nava and Snow became like, okay, this is I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna dedicate actual time to myself and to like nurture what I want to do and how I want to draw and not cater like not draw more unicorns.
So we'll never see a Nava and Snow unicorn?
Oh well, never. I realized when I was putting my studio that apparently I just have a lot of horse stuff. So
Yeah.
I'm gonna say like maybe one day down the road.
Yeah. That or never say never, because I always said that I would never have a hot dog on a shirt, and
Ooh,
I have a hot dog on a shirt. Granted, it's a hot dog and a sandwich high-fiving, but I do have a hot dog on a shirt. So I've learned to never say never on some of these things sometimes.
it's true.
Um So tell me a little bit about just so like so give people an idea like when they if they were to go and say okay well Nava and Snow it makes sense your names tell give people a little bit of an idea of like where the inspiration comes from and then kind of what can expect because I kind of looked and I have my own idea of like what I saw obviously is like the mix but I'm kind of curious on what you guys would say is the mix that they would expect to see on your on like the artwork and the products that you guys are offering.
That's been a journey.
It has been a journey. It's been, like, one of those things that you kind of like, as an artist, you kind of wrestle with because you want people to buy your things, but you also don't want to be a sellout, if that makes sense, and, like, fall to the trends that are happening within the community, like, the local community especially. And so, it's been very much, like, testing out how I wanna draw for the most part, and I think right now we're in a ve or at least I'm in a very good spot of, like, what is dictating my own style, and honestly, like, I love looking at illustrations or graphic design that are very, illustration forward and not so much, like, just text. I also love seeing illustrations that have like a lot of character in them and like actually have a lot of style and in my painting class back in college you always find like the um the sweet spots, the little stories within the big story, and so I like seeing the little stories within big illustrative pieces, and I just kind of want to go back to that kind of to those roots.
Yeah.
And yeah, and also I just love like mid-century pieces. I mean, me being a millennial, that's a given pretty much at this point, but like I don't know, going into a contemporary art museum, you just see like things that they did in the 60s that was just mind-blowing. It's amazing.
Yeah, I think in general too, you could see the evolution of the brand's products. Even on our site now, you can kind of see, and I think we're getting a lot more consistent. We spent the last year or two really trying to take a step back and talk about okay, we want to make sure that every product that she's making inspires her as an artist, and at the same time, like you said, hitting that sweet spot between are people going to buy it and do I still like making it? And I think recently with um, kind of like this new style has been like a nice blend of both where we're incorporating a lot of those. We're kind of going back to where it started with very illustrative drawn elements, less so like vectorized artwork. And it's just kind of, I feel like it's getting more characteristic where someone can see a product and say, oh, that's a Nava and Snow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, and I think that's fantastic. Yeah, because I was gonna say like I definitely see some of the things that I've noticed and I've seen, and I was kind of curious on who's into it because I've seen a mixture of like mocktails and
Mhm.
cocktails. I've seen some Orlando, some Florida. I've seen music. So I have a feeling music plays a part in you guys is a thing. I also see plants. I've seen a lot of plant action, and then just a little bit of everything else, like some positive messages. I've seen a little bit of everything. So I guess I'm kind of curious who's into the mocktails and cocktails, because like those are like those are great. I'm not a huge like, and like they're just like, and I know obviously you guys just did a project with collab with, got to do some work for the neighbors on there, so obviously it's hitting some of the folks are loving what you're doing. But I was just kind of curious, like who's into that, the mocktails and cocktails.
So, I probably am more into it than he is. We both love, like, cocktails, and sometimes we'll have cocktail and record nights, with a couple of friends here, where we'll just, like, listen to a vinyl. We actually have a record, it's what is it called?
It's just like a vinyl record book where it's like a list of uh famous records and then like a cocktail pairing to have with it.
Like, on
Really?
side
Yeah.
A and side B, and so, like, we love doing that, and we love, like, it's I mean, that's fun making the cocktails and also, like, drinking them,
But I think also they're just pretty
they're
too.
so pretty,
Yeah.
and,
They're
like,
very
the
aesthetic.
colors,
Yeah, you break
yeah.
down like the ingredients that go into it, and I know that was a big thing that inspired you with the neighbor's drink was focusing on the ingredients and the colors that happen when you kind of mix that together. It's like a chemical reaction, and you get all these beautiful color combinations and stuff. So
Yeah, and the flavor profiles too. So, yeah, when we did the Neighbors collab, we actually met with, Brianna. She's,
Uh-huh.
like, the GM there, the
She's
general
awesome.
manager.
Yep.
She's so kind.
Love
She
her.
gives the nicest hugs, I have to say.
Yes,
yeah,
yes. I'm a hugger, and I'll never turn down a hug from her, because it's so,
Yes.
top tier.
it's one of those where, and it's funny that you said that, because I actually thought about that today. I don't know why, but I thought about that today while I was driving. I was like, I think it's because I saw two women hug each other in a parking lot, and I was like, wow, that was kind of like you can like maybe that's how she hugs. Like, but it
Mhm.
was kind of like it. I'm like she didn't get all up in there like a good
Yeah,
hug,
Yeah,
like
kind of
like chest
like
to
that
chest hug.
that bro hug kind of
Yeah.
yeah,
thing.
Yeah. I mean,
Yep.
it was two older ladies, but still, I was like, but no, I totally get it. No, that's a whole
yeah,
different topic. My favorite, I love giving hugs. So, but yes,
yeah.
Brianna.
She, when we went to go meet with her for and to actually discuss the ideas and stuff, she presented 2 cocktails that they, would hope inspire a T-shirt. They didn't know which cocktail to, like, focus on, so they kind of relied on us to, like, look at them, test them, see what we think, and see what would make sense for a shirt. And so it was the Baldwin and the Ivanhoe, I
Yeah.
think it was. And so the Baldwin just came out in this most beautiful, like, tulip bulbous glass. It was gorgeous, and it was pink, and it had the dehydrated lime in there. And like, and the Ivanhoe I think was better, and like it was better for my profile because I don't do sweets. But the Baldwin was just so beautiful and so floral, and I was just like, we both were in agreement, like, "Brianna, I think we should do, we're leaning more towards this because it looks just so aesthetically pleasing." It's also pink, and I love pink, and it was very fun, and just, like, doing that project was just a lot of fun because breaking down the ingredients and just trying to find a way to, like, to enhance the cocktail. But yeah, we just have a lot of fun when it comes to coming up with ideas. We'll
Yeah.
actually take walks around the neighborhood. We uh, live right next to Caddy,
Okay.
so we'll do our walks and we'll discuss ideas, generate ideas, and we're like surrounded by nature, and it's really healing and it's very nice. It's not so healing in the summer, but we get it done.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're getting there. But yeah, I think to kind of go back to it, we fall into a lot of our hobbies because we know, well, if we're into it, there's a lot of other people out there that are into this, that are into records or music in general, like cocktails, things like that. And it kind of helps us too because, early on you could fall into the kind of like the licensed product thing, and it's not something that was scalable for us. Like a lot of people do a really awesome job at it. But we wanted to focus more on, original art. We can scale up. We don't know kind of where we're taking this, in the future. And we kind of call this like a pseudo fan art almost because like
Yeah.
nobody owns the license to the idea of music,
Yeah.
but everyone loves
Orlando.
music, so
Yeah.
people are going to relate to this or relate to Orlando,
Yeah.
but no one owns this license, so it's something that we can kind of go back to. That's a happy medium of what are going to what are people going to be interested in buying, and what can we still kind of create and feel good about it.
No, and I think that's very smart to be able to kind of do. I mean, obviously, what better thing to actually write or to create than something that you guys are actually, it's kind of like, especially since you said it, Stephanie, like you worked for the work that you were a lot of the work that you were doing had to do would be with trends. And so you have to, and with the marketing aspect, yes, you have to be mindful of that, but you also want to be true to yourself, because it's a lot easier to sell something that you can kind of tell the story of why you did it and what inspired it. It's a lot easier to do it that way than to be like, oh, I did it because unicorns are hot, so I did it. I did a unicorn. You know what I mean? Like, there's not, you know what I mean? So it's like I kind of think that a lot of times if there's a story behind it and there's people kind of, that's the part you grasp at, I think, or at least that people kind of, you get that connection because like, oh yeah, I love that. And then a lot of
Yeah.
times maybe they come back and be like, well, what's your favorite vinyl album? That you like to
Right.
listen to.
Yeah,
Then
it
you have
comes
that
through.
dialogue.
Yeah, it's nice. That's what I love about markets is the actual connection with people. And there's sometimes we'll have like someone come and's like, I bought almost all of your prints, and I love this cocktail because no one knows about this cocktail, and I think it was like the aviation
Yeah,
specifically,
yeah.
and I was like, yeah, because it's a dope cocktail, like it's so pretty. And so it's really nice to be able to talk to people and just kind of have a conversation about like why I4 is the worst place to be in the world, and um, what people think about like their own favorite cocktails.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, like we've literally had the "What's your favorite record in your collection?" question thrown at us. So,
which is
Yep.
hard to
it's a hard one to
answer.
answer on the
Yeah.
spot. We're gonna have to prepare one.
Yeah, you definitely gotta have a canned one. You know what you tell them? I give you the answer. The answer is it depends on what I'm in the mood for,
Yeah.
Ooh,
because
yeah.
that's my sandwich answer when people ask me. But it is true. It is what depending on what you're mood
Yeah.
for. Because sometimes you're a little bit more into like I want to listen to a little bit more upbeat. I need a little bit more chill. Depending on what it is, it kind of works that way. One thing that I do know that I've seen a lot of people love, and I don't see a lot of people doing it, is the sun catcher stickers. I
Really?
know that
Yeah.
that's become very popular. I love you. I know you kind of. That's another thing that I know that I feel like you like because it's part of it does. It gives a great idea of nature and the vision and all those things. So that's something that I've always kind of noticed, and I'm like, wow, I'm like I always see it somewhere around, whether at Joybird or other places I've seen it. Out of curiosity, when you guys go for your walk and you're having this conversation and you're kind of bouncing things back and forth, where are you writing down or where are you keeping all these ideas that come up as you're walking? Is it like one of those you guys are like, hey Siri, and you're like doing a voice note, or what exactly are you guys doing?
So oftentimes we just kind of talk into the void and just like whatever sticks we'll try and do. But he's really good at just like pulling up our shared drive and just writing down the ideas in a Word doc. And then when we're ready, we just go revisit it. Sometimes, and that's very helpful, like, because, I can be as creative as possible and be as artistic as possible. But sometimes when ideas don't come to me, they just don't come. And so he's been very helpful of just like, well, we can take these motifs and then pair it with this saying, and this poster is selling more than other posters, or prints are selling more than other prints, and maybe we need to tweak this type of messaging and put it with the same motif that's on here. And he's really good at just being able to like see things at honestly face value and just be like this and this, while I'm here like, oh, but I want to redraw the sun like 10 times. um
Yeah, that's the business side coming out, but I think
Yeah.
I've had to, like, train myself to not kill creativity. So that was definitely something that's I think we both got a lot better, where I'm just like, "Okay, like, here's some ideas, but if we don't wanna do it, if that's not inspiring, we're
yeah.
not doing it," you know?
He's not an artist,
No.
so he doesn't really understand like process, and so or workflow process, like wanting to be inspired and wanting to like have it down on paper. And that's where he comes in. Like he's so big picture, and I'm so like narrow, small, like picture. And so sometimes, I mean, we'll go at it, but most times we're finding like the middle ground of like, oh, okay, I see what you're saying. I'm not offended. You know, I'm not offended as, like, an artist, I get it. So, and he'll just be like, "Oh, I understand you need, like, time to wanna create a new material and, like, you wanna build it from scratch,
Yeah.
and, you know, just let the process happen." And I think that's a lot of these new drawings and these new art prints is all about, being okay with the process and even um, having that show through the texture, like, actually, like, coloring in and stuff and just, you know, it's been healing for sure.
Yeah. I think we've finally kind of nailing that that middle ground.
Yeah.
Mhm. And that's the great thing about it, you know, following and finally finding that process and kind of seeing how each one of you ebb and flow through the process and the product as it comes out. So do you guys do this? You guys have full-time jobs and this is side?
Yeah.
Right? Okay.
Yeah.
I figured that. What do you think has been the hardest part of this journey so far for you guys?
So, I think for me, it's, dedicating the time for sure. I think, like, especially, before at my previous job, I was, like, definitely just drawing pretty much for the entire day, and then coming home, I was just like, "I just wanna eat." But luckily, I work so close now. I actually work at Rollins College in the library, and,
Okay.
it's just a few minutes down the road, and so my workday ends at 3:30, and it just sometimes traffic is bad. It's fine, but, I get here by, like, 4 o'clock, and it's just like, "Oh, I have some time before he comes home," and sometimes I'll take the time to be able to do something, but mostly my biggest hurdle is, like, actually setting blocks of time, and, as an artist in Aquarius, I like to rebel and not do anything when I'm told, to be honest.
Yeah, I think part of it for me too is coming up with like the bigger picture, like where are we trying to take it and figuring out the steps to get there while at the same time kind of being conscious of our bandwidth and we might not have all this time to dedicate. So like a new product for us might take a couple of months
Yeah.
to happen and just kind of being okay with that for now because we're having fun with it. And if we decided to kind of take this somewhere else or to try to really dedicate some time to it, we have that option. But kind of being okay with where we're at with the business. And I think that's another thing that we kind of have gotten better terms with lately.
Yeah.
Um, that we're gonna get as much out of it as we put into it, and that's totally fine if we could only put so much.
Yeah.
That makes sense. No, that totally makes sense. What's been your favorite part?
Honestly, like, I really enjoy, like, just people coming up to me and just being like, "Oh my gosh, I love all the colors," and, like, you know, some people say, like, "Oh, it's so well designed. Oh, you're the artist?" And I really, like, enjoy having this connection with people, and I like it when we have regulars come in, and
Mhm.
honestly just even when we see vendors at, like, say, Milk Mart and stuff, and we're just like catching up, and it's honestly the sense of community is just so amazing here. Like, that's
Yeah.
one thing Orlando has. It's like we're such a good community
Yeah.
together. What about you?
Yeah, I mean, I think mostly the same. Definitely being at the markets, meeting people, meeting other vendors, meeting customers. When people like walk by and you could kind of overhear them a little bit whisper like, "Oh, I picked up that pin at Joybird" or something like that.
Yeah.
You're just kind of like,
Yeah.
"Yes."
Oh, it's
You
like
know, it's a super
yeah.
validating
Yep.
thing. Or when you come up with a new product and it sells out at the first market you go to, you know, like that's a super validating thing for sure.
No, I totally agree. I think to me, I definitely enjoy the markets. It's one of those where it's a lot of work,
Oh
Mhm.
yeah.
but you get a lot. I feel like you get a lot of out of it, especially since yes, it's great to be able to do wholesale. It's great to be able to sell online, but when you're able to have that interaction with people, I think that's the that kind of fuels helps fuel you
Yeah.
as you're kind of doing it. So I totally get that. I'm definitely a fan. I'm definitely a fan of of what your prints are. I also love, and I think I even mentioned I sent a message to you guys because I saw one of the things that you guys did was the relax your mind, the chenille patch.
Hmm.
Yeah.
So good.
Thank you.
I just like loved it. And I do agree. Like I love the colors. You use a lot of different colors. There's some brightness to it. which is fun because you want it's joyful. It's it kind of definitely gives a great. It's just a great vibe you get out of it. And
I
it's also very
agree.
classic that you can like put it somewhere and it's got a classic look to it as well, which I think is it definitely helps
And
for sure.
that came from, like, early on too. One of the things we've always talked about is how can we make each thing we do a little different, than kinda what's out there. So, with that, kinda adding different textures, that's a big deal for us. With some of our pins, like, one of our latest pins is, like, an orange, and it has this
Yeah.
translucent background behind it. If you see the pin in person, like that blue is translucent, and that's just something it's small but it's different. Or like most of our stuff, like all of our stickers have like a glitter holographic thing to it, or a lot of our pins have like a glitter like added to it, and it,
Mhm.
it just adds a little extra. We love texture, especially like in our own house, like
Yeah.
Yeah.
we and that's just something that we think is like an easy way to kind of differentiate some of the products that you're putting out there.
It's also the little details that people notice. People see
Yeah,
that.
Definitely. Yeah.
exactly.
So I definitely do that. I know you guys do a lot of markets. I figure I love to ask like, what are some tips, tricks that you've learned to have a successful show?
Low expectations, to be honest. I think just be out there and just vibing is the best way you can like tackle it. I think like this last Milk Mart was one of the worst markets to be
For
honest.
us.
It was for us,
For
yeah, for
us. Yeah.
sure. Because it was we just got rained out and stuff, but like just going in and like knowing it's going to be a rainy day and it's going to be cloudy, like you may not make the money back, but
But in that case, like also maybe seeing what you did get out of it. So in that case, I don't even know. I think we may have barely broke even, but a freelance opportunity came from that, from someone that
So
we met.
yeah,
exactly.
and that's kind of one of the things that I kind of like. It's funny because my parents they care about my business, but the number one question I get asked is, "Mijo, how many cuántas camisetas? How many shirts did you sell?
Yeah.
Or how many hats did you sell?" And I'm like, and I try to always tell them, I'm like, and I can't say to them I don't know because I do know, so
Yeah,
they know that I know, and so then I'm like, okay, and I'm like, but mom, it's not about that. Like, you
Right.
just don't know who you're gonna meet.
Definitely.
You don't know, and to be honest, it's exactly kind of like the low expectation, but at the same time, I'm like, I'm going in because my whole idea is if one new person knows about me or one new person walks by, maybe doesn't buy, but learns about my business, sees it, maybe sees it again in another place and says, oh my gosh, I love that. I'm going to buy it at that place. Or if not, they come back because they're like, man, I really loved what you guys did, and like I've been thinking about it, or I told my friends about you,
Right.
or
yeah,
hey, I bought this at the neighbors, or a frame, frame. I think you guys are maybe I believe a framework, like
yeah,
like one of those, like oh, I bought this at framework, and they go, oh, you guys are you're that person, because
Right.
that happens often too, right? Because
oh
they don't
yeah,
know, they just know a brand or a print. They don't know who the person in the face behind it is. So
Definitely.
sometimes those things to me are just as important, to have those connections and networking. And I think that's really a great mindset to have of like, hey, I may not have, I mean, what I we always want to do better. And of course,
oh yeah,
lately, we'll just say it. Milk Mark has been very rainy and very. The weather does not like Milk Mart.
consistently. Evidently
The
though.
last like 3 or 4 it does not. Anytime there's a Milk Mart, weather's like, oh, I'm gonna f ya. I'm gonna make it wet or I'm gonna make it windy. So,
Yep. May will
Absolutely.
be better. May will be
yeah,
better.
that's what I'm praying for. But yes,
Yeah.
I'm totally down for that. I've seen like I mentioned before, I've seen a lot of your stuff around town, other shops. I'm always kind of curious about this, and I think people are always kind of curious. Is this something that you guys approach them? Are they approaching you? Kind of like how is that kind of working, that relationship, when you're getting stuff in different locations? How's that working for you?
So we're honestly doing the outreach ourselves. So I think Johnny tried Neighbors like once before.
Yeah.
Um,
I like just did the email on their website. I didn't hear back for a while. And then I think we were talking to Sandhill at a market, and they were like, "Oh, that's weird. Here's Brianna's like name, like just reach out to her. She's awesome." So we did that, and that's another point for markets. Like um,
The
yeah,
networking,
the
the
networking, like
connections you
you're
make.
gonna get stuff out of it. Others have been more strategic. Joybird, we done markets with them before they opened the
Mhm.
shop.
Yep.
Um, so they were already kind of we were already kind of fans of each other, and it was kind of like a strategic Instagram comment where they posted like like our shop's opening soon or something like that, and then you just kind of go in and we're just like we can't wait, which is
I
true, we
shot
couldn't
my
wait.
shot.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
it's like a little strategic. You kind of like sprinkle the things in there, and then we get a DM later that's just like, oh, we actually want to reach out to you because we're looking to have vendors. Yeah, I mean, most of the time it's an Instagram DM. It's that
Yeah.
easy.
Yeah.
And if they don't reach out to you, it's not something to be discouraged about. They probably just don't know, or they're not looking for the opportunities. But if it comes to them, they'll be like, sure. Especially if it's consignment, it's such
Oh,
a
yeah.
low risk
Yeah.
opportunity that most people are totally cool with getting your shops, and it's been great for visibility.
No, I totally agree. Any way that you can get more eyes on your stuff, you really can't go wrong. I mean, and the more places that see it, especially since sometimes it does take a few times. A few people need to see your product a few times before they actually, you actually reel them in to actually want to buy.
Yeah,
Agreed.
So
Like we're actually in another location in Sanford, and like none of our stuff was moving. And so I think it's also important to see the actual markets. Like it's okay to test a location, but if nothing is selling, then you know that bubble is probably not your target audience.
that is very, very good. I think it's a very there are some markets that I don't go to, or I do not sell at, not because I don't want to, but because I don't know if I'm the demographic, or or
yeah,
even though I know everyone eats sandwiches, I sometimes feel like maybe I'm not going to hit the spot
yeah,
on this, and that's kind of sometimes tough to do, and sometimes you kind of, and at the same time, it's also sometimes you just kind of need to, like for me right now, I'm in a process where I'm trying to do markets at different locations in
Hmm.
different places, just because I want to do something different, or I want a new set of eyes on me,
yeah,
because
Yeah.
that's the other part. Sometimes if you keep going to the same market all the time, nothing worse than when someone comes to you that sees you often enough, and then they're like, hey, Stephanie, and Johnny, what new thing do you have? And even though you then have to like be like, well, I don't know, like what's new to you?
Yeah.
yeah.
I don't know when the last time you saw me is. And then you're like, well, this is new. This, and he's like, oh, I've never seen this one. I'm like, well, that one's like 6 months old.
Right.
You know what
Yeah.
I mean? Like, and
Yeah.
then you get one of those. So sometimes it's kind of like, okay, I'm just gonna like, you kind of need like fresh eyes on you sometimes as well. So it's kind of a mix that you need to have. So yeah, I definitely agree with that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you definitely have to experiment. Like I think we did one market in Sanford like years ago actually. I think it was
It's when
pre-pandemic.
we were first starting. It might have been our first year.
Yeah, and so I think it's really important to just kind of be like non what's the word? Just look at it like plainly
Like,
and
you don't have to say yes to every opportunity also, which
yeah.
is another one that we're also trying to learn. We've kind of recognized there are certain types of pop-ups that we don't think will do well in. Maybe the mentality of the people attending aren't to shop. Maybe they're there for something else. If it's like a pop-up at a certain kind of event, like they're there to
Or
drink. They might not
yeah.
Yep.
be there to buy
Yep.
stuff.
Or like
But
the type of people like so if there's more families in this area, they're looking for bigger pieces to put into their homes, like they're
Mhm.
recent homeowners or um like it's it's important to look at the demographic of an area and just be like, will they actually be invested in the wares that I'm selling,
yeah,
or are they looking to decorate a new home or things like that.
I totally get that. One thing that I love that you guys are doing, which is smart, because as you're developing and creating your brand and like your kind of your style and everything like that, you're doing things where it's perfect. Like I kind of tell people like these are great, like especially for an artist, like entry market areas, in the sense that you're doing
hmm,
stickers, enamel pins, keychains, patches, prints, which is great because it's like it's kind of like it's a good cost,
yep,
and at the same time an entry where people can kind of come in, and then if as you see things growing, then you can start doing, like I'm the tote bags, like maybe the t-shirts are an animal. I got
Yes.
as
yeah,
you can see behind me, I got lots of them. So So yeah, so that's like a different animal. So usually I like that's one reason why I've gone done more pins, more stickers, because I feel like that's always been helpful for me. It's a low cost for me to be able to do. It's something that obviously you don't have to worry about sizing, and it's a lot, and it's kind of like you could always reproduce and create more, which is great because who doesn't love, people love all that stuff, especially if you can give them out as gifts. And hey, I thought of you, I want to do this. Like you have like a great Orlando one with all the different districts. That one's like that's a great one. You have like, I love your I4. Your I4 one is like should be kind of like, I will say that you should probably make that a greeting card. Like the I4 image says sometimes
Yes.
sometimes you're having an I4 type of day,
Yeah.
something like that. Thinking of you, something to that
I
effect.
love that
Just,
one.
and if you do get that, feel free, you don't have to give me credit on it, but if it does
Credited.
happen, but yeah, definitely, it definitely is something that could definitely be used, which I love. What um what advice would you give someone for wanting to start something?
I think that just narrowing down your type of niche. Orlando is such a great place. We all feel like one community, but we're all made up of little sub niches, and people are constantly getting further and further into their sub niche. So I think finding what makes you happy and just like going all in, you're gonna find your audience. I also think just being consistent probably is helpful. Well, it is the most
We could be
helpful.
better at
Yeah,
that.
at consistency. But what about you? What do you think?
I mean, I think my number one answer is probably the cliche one of just do it and see what happens. But um, I think the biggest thing that we actually learned is it is a process, and you're going to be learning, and things are going to be evolving, and things are going to be changing, and you don't have to be 100%.
Finished.
Yeah, like it's not what you decide now doesn't need to be where it is in the next year or two, or even in the next few months. You know, like your style will change. You'll learn. You'll adapt to things that don't work and things that do work, and you'll just find if you don't like it anymore, you'll shift and you'll learn what you do like about it.
Or you'll just sell it for the next like 5 years because people still want to buy it.
At the end of the day, it's just like, yeah, you do it because you love it. So make sure you just love it. It won't always be easy, and just kind of learn from the process.
And also like treat it as play, not work, because I I think that's one thing I had to learn too is like I know how to use these tools. I don't necessarily have to use them for this business.
Yeah.
And so like one of the things shout out to his brother, David Soto. He helped me create the new logo for Nava and Snow, but like I'm not a lettering artist, but I definitely wanted to create something that was very unique to us. And so from the first like logo, which I immediately hated, but Johnny was like, it's okay. It's
This'll
fine for
do.
now, it'll be, this will do. And so I last year I was like, I'm going to recreate it, it's time, I need to, it's for my soul. And so I collaborated with his brother who is an actual lettering artist, and he helped me figure out like ligatures and like why how things should look and flow. So that's one thing, just using your skills
Yeah.
very specifically when it's needed.
No, I love that. You guys definitely have a mixture of creative folks, because I know, and not to go so into it, but I know your sister Stephanie, your sister does some creative things as well. So it's kind of interesting how you guys, because doesn't she do like the vinyl figures, or resin type figures as well?
So she's yeah, she does, she's our sister-in-law,
Yeah,
she's actually married to
sister-in-law.
his
Okay.
brother.
Holy cow!
Yeah,
So they're like
Yes.
they're
another creative group.
like a
Look at that! I
power.
love it.
Yeah,
Talk
they're like
about
a
Yeah,
a
power
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 creative
of
couple.
duo.
creativity. I love it.
Yeah, and so yeah, she hand cast resin dolls. Aliana Soto, fetch for donuts. Just like look her up on Instagram. She does amazing
Yeah,
things. She
we'll put it in the note we'll put it in the show notes so you can go check it out, because
perfect.
I've started following when you guys told me about her, and I started following because I think it's super cool. Um, and maybe one day, maybe we'll have her on one time, and so we
Oh,
can chat
heck
with her
yeah.
about it. Um, I wanted to ask you, Stephanie, because I saw that you, I love the fact, because there's definitely an area where I feel like, some artists, or they feel like some folks aren't open to sharing process or sharing what they're doing. And I know that you did, for a little while, you did like a YouTube channel showing the art. I know that you did illustrations for, I believe you got, and it was award winning, right? For a children's book. Is
Yeah.
that correct?
Yeah.
I mean, beautiful, beautiful work. I mean, and
Thank
it's a lot, and
you.
and I know it must have been very time consuming to be able to do that type of work. But it's also got to be, I'm assuming it's got to be really rewarding to be able to see, as like, especially like you kind of mentioned, like the commission work, like this is another outlet now for people to be able to see what you can do and what you guys are creating. And then now, it's kind of almost similar to kind of like what Sandhill's happening, where like they'll create something, people are like, man, I really love that style, can you make something like that or something like this for me?
Yeah.
And I love seeing that with you guys, and more people kind of recognizing and seeing it. And I just think it's great that you're being highlighted, and you're able to kind of show, all the different styles of art that you actually do when you're creating.
Thank you. I think that's one of the things that people don't realize about graphic designers is that you have to adapt to so many different styles. And so I think that's one of the reasons why I struggle as an artist and like trying to figure out my style, because I can adapt to, you know, a lot of different things. And honestly, I like learning. And I'm good at learning when I'm doing something. So, like, for instance, the book, it was my first time doing a children's book. And I did it with a friend who I've known since like middle school. And she's like amazing and very strong. And she and I just got together. And like, that was my first time I ever designed a book, illustrated a book. And so it was a learning process, but I really enjoyed it. And having those skills in my tool belt, it's so honestly, for me, it's rewarding because I can tackle a book project with less, you know, apprehension and just be like, yeah, I can do that. I can actually do that. It was not too bad.
That's awesome. No, I think that's phenomenal. The fact that, that you're able to kind of show those things and see those things. And then and one of the things that you guys mentioned before when you were talking about like finding your niche and being flexible and all those things, like I know many brands or many folks that have kind of originally started with like this mindset on this path, and then they decided to start kind of slowly pivoting, and then and then they started noticing, based on trends, based on how people are kind of looking, they were more gravitating towards more one side of their business, or their design or what they were creating, and then all of a sudden they decided to start shifting that way. And then once they started doing that, then all of a sudden it was like
Yeah.
it's the spark went, and then that was it. They just kind of skyrocketed from there. So it's always it's very important to be able to kind of have, I tell I that's why I always kind of feel like it's important to be able to have, like, yeah, you if you have like your niche or your what you're interested in, it's okay to try different little styles and kind of stay within that window, or that road, I guess. And then, but at the same time, being able to shift a little bit so that you can kind of show a different side, because you never know
Yeah.
if that's kind of what the market wants.
Yeah.
And that sometimes kind of, that can be kind of tough too, because like, like if all of a sudden like the market wants something told, you're like, oh, I did that for fun and I didn't think anyone would want that, but that's what everyone wants. And I was like,
Yeah.
what am I gonna do now?
It's like, honestly, that's just kind of like bands who have that one hit single and they just hate that song for the
And
rest of
yeah,
their
and
like
their album
lives.
sounds nothing like that one song
Yep.
that
Yeah.
everyone loves.
Yep.
It's so funny.
Yeah, but that was one of the reasons we actually drew the separation of Nava and Snow from Stephanie the artist. And Nava and Snow is always meant to be an outlet, like just another creative outlet for her. And that was kind of one of the things we talked about, is like, well, we don't have to be defined now because the brand is not called Stephanie Nieves art anymore. It's
Yep.
Nava and Snow. And, Stephanie's able to, I mean, I'll gas her up because I love gassing her up because she's incredible, but she's always diving into like a new side project. And she's just like,
I never finished them, okay? So let's just
yeah,
put it
you
right
don't
there.
have to. But like, there's like like she was last year started making a dollhouse, and she was like getting his little furnitures, and she was like, oh, I want to make the wallpaper, and then she just designed this like amazing Art Deco wallpaper that I would love to have in my house, just for like this. I was like, this buddy's house is better than ours. Like, come on.
Yeah, literally. And yeah, it's it's fun, like I said, to learn things and just to kind of like there's something about doing things physically, that, like, drawing digitally just doesn't do for you, but I
And
just
that's
love
kind of
doing
for you,
things.
right? You tend to do more pencil, kind of like sit down. Do you do more pencil or more like on an iPad type of thing with like, but
So
actually kind of draw it out? Or how do you usually go? What's your process like?
So I actually have not drawn in such a long time. I'm gonna be quite honest. I think that like art block is real. But I actually started to I was gifted a sketchbook like 2 years ago for Christmas. Because that's the typical artist like gift, right? So I finally took it out and I was like, you know what? I think I'm actually just gonna start sketching. Nothing has to be finished. I that's what I loved about doing art is I love the actual sketching because personally I think there's so much beauty in the process of drawing. You get so many different things that you wouldn't see in a finished product per se. And so I just like started sketching with this amazing pencil that he gifted me many, many years ago. It's a Pentel, uh, like mechanical pencil, and it's super heavy. I love it. And so I've been just doing pencil sketches. Like the other day, we went to an art museum, and I was just trying to draw like little moments within a painting because I'm just trying to get back into the swing of things. But my tool of choice is the iPad, Procreates, and
Hmm.
I've been eyeing this package on True Grit Supply. I think that's what it's called. They have some like gritty Procreate brushes and Illustrator brushes, and I'm just like, am I going to spend hundreds of dollars? I think I might actually on just brushes.
Tax write-off.
Okay.
Yeah.
Love it. You guys love texture, so that makes sense. Um, where can people follow and check out your stuff online?
So we're on Instagram. He actually is the Instagram dude. I'm pretty shy, but he normally like handles that. And I think I'm still on Etsy, but we're trying to move to Squarespace because Etsy is just wild right now, the
Hmm.
Wild West.
Yeah,
Yep.
at Nava and Snow
Okay.
on Instagram. There you can find our new e-commerce site on Square. I don't even think we link to the Etsy anymore, but
Yeah.
that's everything.
No, I love it. I think it's great. You guys have done a really great job. I love,
Thank
I
you.
always love being able to see you guys. I love seeing, when people are walking around with some of your prints in hand. I think it's great. I think I'm super excited. I loved it because you and I got to spend quite a bit of time at one event, and we got to know each
Yep.
other because we did an event. Um, we won't say what the event is, but it wasn't very populated, and so we got to spend quite a bit of time talking, and it was great. I thought it was I was super excited to have that moment, and that's kind of what I took out of it. Was my positive
Yeah.
experience was getting to meet new people and talk to
Absolutely.
them. Maybe not as many people shopping, but I got to meet the people around me, and I love that. I think
Yeah,
that's kind of one of my
exactly.
favorite things
Yeah.
about some of doing these events. So definitely I appreciate Stephanie and Johnny for being on the show.
Thank you so much
That's
for
our
having
show for
us.
oh yes, thank you. You guys, I really appreciate you guys taking the time. That's our show for today. Thank you so much to Stephanie and Johnny Nieves of Nava and Snow for being on. Not well, properly Nava and Snow Paper Company, Paper Studio, correct?
Yeah.
Is the proper name. Um, Definitely make sure to check them out online. If you see them at a market, go check out their stuff, do some shopping. And if you don't see it online or see it at a pop up, you'll definitely see them at quite a few of their stores. I know they usually do have it posted, some of the different locations that you can actually shop locally in Orlando for them. If you enjoyed the show, definitely make sure to subscribe. If you want to support me, check out my brand, Deli Fresh Threads, and do some shopping. Obviously, tell your friends. Thank you. Until next time, keep eating sandwiches and follow your passion. Thanks, everyone.